Ladies, let's have an honest conversation. We live in a world that tells women to be easygoing, low maintenance, and never too much. But the truth is, a woman who knows her worth is never afraid to set standards, not as a demand, but as a declaration of who she is. So let's talk about what setting standards really looks like for a high-value woman, not from a place of fear, but from confidence and love. A high-value woman understands the importance of clarity in love. She doesn't hide behind vague hints or wait for someone to guess what she needs. Instead, she speaks with honesty and confidence, expressing her desires not as ultimatums, but as truths about who she is and what she values. She's not demanding, she's self-aware. By being upfront, she sets the tone for mature connection, showing that love should feel safe, transparent, and mutual. She doesn't feel the need to audition for someone's affection. There's no chasing, no proving, no shrinking herself to be chosen. She walks through life knowing her worth is not up for debate. If someone can't see it, she doesn't panic. She simply moves on. Her presence is a gift, not a negotiation. That's why she holds her boundaries early and firmly. These aren't harsh limits meant to push others away, but healthy guidelines that protect her peace and energy. She knows love doesn't require her to suffer, wait endlessly, or sacrifice her dignity. When something feels off, she doesn't play games or rely on passive-aggressive silence. She communicates openly, listening carefully and speaking with intention. She values action over empty promises, watching what people do rather than getting lost in what they say. She's not here for potential. She's here for partnership. While she's kind and compassionate, she refuses to abandon herself in the name of hope. If a relationship becomes one-sided or painful, she has the strength to walk away, even with love in her heart. Her world doesn't revolve around a relationship. She values her independence, cherishes her solitude, and cultivates a life so full that love feels like an enhancement, not a rescue mission. She leads by example, living with integrity and holding herself to the same standards she expects from others. In the end, her greatest power is knowing when to stay and when to leave. She doesn't fear letting go because she trusts that the right person will never ask her to compromise who she is. When a high-value woman raises her standards, she doesn't lose love. She simply makes space for the love she truly deserves. She doesn't audition for love because she already knows she is the prize. She's not interested in trying to prove her worth to someone who doesn't recognize it. Her energy is not spent performing or persuading anyone to choose her, because she understands that love, when it's real, doesn't need convincing. She walks at every connection with a quiet confidence, knowing that the right person will see her for who she is without needing a presentation or a pitch. Rather than chasing validation, she creates space. If someone pulls away or shows inconsistency, she doesn't panic or cling harder. She steps back with grace, understanding that she's not meant to beg for attention or force someone to value her presence. Love, for her, is a mutual exchange, not a competition for affection. When someone's actions don't match their words, she pays attention and doesn't waste time trying to make it work. She knows her peace is worth more than potential. Even in moments of doubt, she holds steady. She doesn't allow loneliness or pressure to lower her standards. She would rather wait for something real than settle for something that chips away at her self-worth. And because she's not operating from desperation, she can see clearly who deserves her energy. She knows that love built on performance is not sustainable. It drains, it disappoints, and eventually it breaks. So she lets go of anything that requires her to become someone she's not just to be loved. Ultimately, she believes that the right person will never need to be convinced. She trusts that love should feel like home, not a stage. By staying true to herself, she invites a connection rooted in respect, authenticity, and mutual admiration. Has been. She doesn't need to audition because she's not applying for a role. She's living her truth, the apology has been, and only those who genuinely align with it are welcome to stay. She understands the boundaries are not about shutting people out, but about letting the right ones in. She doesn't build walls to keep love away. She creates space where respect and trust can grow. Her boundaries are clear and calm, not reactive or aggressive. They're rooted in self-respect, not fear. When someone earns her time and emotional presence through consistency and genuine effort, she welcomes them fully. But if someone pushes past her comfort or ignores what she's communicated, she doesn't hesitate to step back. Setting boundaries early is not a test. It's a reflection of how she values herself. She knows that her peace and well-being are too important to compromise for temporary affection or fleeting attention. That's why she doesn't entertain situations that leave her confused or drained. She doesn't allow repeated excuses or disrespect to become a pattern. The people in her life know where they stand because she communicates with maturity, clarity, and a quiet strength that doesn't require drama. She doesn't wait for things to get toxic before she speaks up. If something doesn't feel right, she expresses it early with honesty and kindness. She gives others the opportunity to rise and meet her standard. But if they can't, she doesn't hold it against them. She just moves forward, knowing that alignment cannot be forced. Her boundaries are not about changing others, but about honoring herself. She's not punishing anyone, she's protecting her space so that love can thrive in a healthy, nurturing environment. Over time, these boundaries become a filter. They attract the kind of people who respect, appreciate, and support her for who she is. She's not afraid to walk alone for a while because she knows that the relationships that matter will always respect the lines she's drawn. And in doing so, she doesn't just preserve her self-worth. She creates the foundation for the kind of deep, fulfilling connection that only grows when both people feel safe, seen, and honored. She approaches communication with the intention to understand and be understood, not to blame or criticize. When something bothers her, she doesn't bottle it up or let resentment grow. Instead, she addresses it with honesty and emotional maturity. She knows that avoiding conversations only creates distance, so she leans in with calm words and an open heart. Her goal is not to win an argument, but to strengthen the relationship through clarity and truth. She never uses silence or passive aggression to make a point. She doesn't play games or wait for the other person to guess what's wrong. She values directness. It respects both her time and the other person's. Even when emotions are high, she chooses language that reflects care rather than control. She can express disappointment without disrespect, and that makes her communication powerful and disarming at the same time. What sets her apart is her ability to remain grounded in the middle of conflict. She listens with presence, even when she's upset, because she values resolution more than being right. She is not interested in drama or emotional manipulation. If someone tries to twist her words or deflect responsibility, she stays centered, refusing to be pulled into a cycle of defensiveness. Her calm, firm communication creates a safe space for honest conversations, which allows both people to grow together instead of pulling apart. Because she communicates clearly and with grace, she attracts deeper, healthier relationships. People feel safe opening up to her because they know they won't be attacked or shamed. She creates connection through vulnerability, not fear. And when someone can't meet her with the same emotional maturity, she recognizes that and steps away peacefully, knowing she deserves a partnership built on mutual respect and open-hearted communication. She pays close attention to patterns, not just promises. While sweet words can be comforting in the moment, Hashi understands that true connection is built through consistent action over time. Compliments and romantic gestures mean very little if they are not supported by follow-through. She doesn't fall for charm without character, and she doesn't confuse Ku's momentary effort with long-term intention. Her eyes are open, not because she's skeptical, but because she values honesty more than fantasy. When someone says they care but constantly fails to show up, she doesn't create excuses or fill in the blanks with hope. She knows that actions reveal priorities, and when someone's behavior contradicts their words, she pays attention. She doesn't chase clarity from someone who keeps giving mixed signals. Instead, she takes those signals as the answer. Her emotional intelligence allows her to recognize inconsistency without needing a dramatic confrontation. She simply adjusts how much space that person has in her life. She doesn't write stories in her mind about who someone could become. Instead, she looks at who they are showing up as right now. She resists the temptation to hold on to potential because she knows that relationships routed in potential often come at the cost of her peace. While she's compassionate and understanding, she doesn't let empathy override evidence. She refuses to build a future with someone whose present behavior continues to fall short of respect and reliability. When the actions don't align, she doesn't get angry or seek revenge. She simply steps away. Her silence is not passive, it's purposeful. Walking away is not a loss for her. It's a form of self-protection. She knows that holding on to empty promises delays the love that's meant for her. So she leaves with grace, head high, trusting that what's real will never require her to question her worth or decode someone else's intentions. She understands that real connection cannot be forced. When someone starts to pull away, she doesn't chase after them or try to convince them to stay. Instead, she leans back and allows space to reveal the truth. She knows that someone who truly values her will show up without having to be pushed or reminded. Love that is genuine doesn't require constant effort to hold it together. It flows naturally, and both people meet each other halfway. She's not interested in controlling the outcome or clinging to someone who isn't ready. Rather than react with anxiety or desperation, she trusts the process. If someone creates distance, she doesn't rush in to fill the silence. She allows them the space to make their own choices because she knows that their behavior in that silence is more telling than any words they could say. Her stillness isn't weakness. It's strength rooted in self-respect. She doesn't personalize someone else's inconsistency. If someone can't show up fully, she doesn't internalize it as a flaw in herself. She sees it for what it is, a misalignment, not a reflection of her worth. By not chasing, she protects her peace and dignity. She knows that love is not something you run after. It's something you attract by standing firmly in who you are. Her energy isn't spent convincing someone to stay. It's saved for someone who never makes her question where she stands. Letting go isn't easy, but she does it with grace. She doesn't hold grudges or play the victim. She simply accepts that what's meant for her won't require chasing. In that acceptance, she finds freedom. She clears space in her life for the kind of love that is steady, present, and mutual. By not chasing what doesn't feel right, She creates room for something far better than she would have found by holding on to what was fading. She values her alone time deeply because she understands that solitude is not a punishment. It's a gift. She doesn't need constant company to feel complete, and she's not afraid to be alone with her thoughts. In fact, those quiet moments help her reconnect with herself and stay grounded in her truth. She sees her own presence as something fulfilling, not something lacking. Her identity isn't tied to whether she's in a relationship or not, and that gives her a calm inner strength that others often admire. She builds a life that already feels whole, one that's rich with purpose, friendships, passions, and peace. Love, when it arrives, is welcome. But it is never the thing that defines her. She doesn't wait for a partner to start living fully. She invests in herself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Because of this, she brings a sense of fullness into every connection rather than expecting someone else to complete her. Her happiness isn't outsourced. It's cultivated from within because she's content in her own company. She doesn't rush into relationships out of fear of being alone. She takes her time. She chooses carefully. She's not looking for someone to rescue her or fix the parts of her life she hasn't faced. She's already doing that work herself. And because of that self-awareness she's less likely to settle for surface, level connections or tolerate behavior that doesn't match her values. Her sense of peace becomes her standard, and she protects it fiercely. When she does let someone in, it's not from a place of emotional neediness. It's from a desire to share her already fulfilling life. She sees love as a beautiful addition, not a desperate necessity. This mindset allows her to love freely, without fear of loss or obsession with control. She is able to give love without losing herself in the process. And that, more than anything, is what makes her magnetic to the kind of connection she truly deserves. She doesn't settle for potential because she knows that falling in love with who someone could become is often a recipe for disappointment. She is present with reality, not fantasy. While she believes in growth and understands that people evolve, she does not enter into relationships hoping to mold or fix someone. She pays attention to who someone is today, how they show up, how they treat others, and whether their values align with hers. She sees the present version of a person as the truth, not just a placeholder for something better in the future. When someone shows inconsistency, emotional unavailability, or lacks direction, she doesn't overlook it just because they have a good heart or big dreams. She appreciates ambition and effort, but she doesn't confuse talk for transformation. She is drawn to those who are already taking responsibility for their lives, not those who are waiting to be rescued or motivated. Her love is supportive, not sacrificial. She doesn't take on the role of teacher, therapist, or mother in a romantic relationship. Her standards reflect the life she has built for herself. She knows the value of emotional maturity, clear communication, and consistent action. She doesn't romanticize red flags or try to justify someone's lack of effort by clinging to their potential. She's been through enough to understand that hoping someone will change is not the same as being loved as you are. And so, she saves her energy for those who meet her with readiness, not promises, choosing someone based on who they are now rather than who they might become allows her to experience love that is rooted in the present. It gives her peace of mind and protects her heart from unnecessary pain. She doesn't need to wait years for someone to catch up emotionally or prove their worth. She already knows that love should feel mutual, balanced, and stable. By letting go of potential and embracing reality, She creates space for a relationship that can thrive from day one. She lives by the same values she expects from others. If she asks for honesty, she gives it. If she wants loyalty, she shows it. There's no double standard in her world. She understands that true integrity means aligning her actions with her words, even when no one is watching. This self-awareness makes her trustworthy and dependable, not just in love, but in all areas of her life. She leads by example, and people naturally respect her for it. She doesn't demand respect while accepting disrespect. She knows that if she allows inconsistency or chaos into her life, she's teaching others how to treat her. That's once why she is intentional with her time, her energy, and her choices. She doesn't surround herself with people who drain her or stay in situations that don't reflect her values. By holding herself accountable, she naturally sets the tone for how others should engage with her. She also avoids hypocrisy, as she won't criticize someone else's lack of commitment while being unsure of what she wants herself. She knows that the energy she puts out is often the energy she receives, so she remains mindful of how she shows up in relationships. She's willing to do the inner work, to grow, to admit when she's wrong, and to adjust when needed. This emotional maturity allows her to build relationships based on mutual growth and shared standards. When she holds herself to a higher standard, she not only gains the respect of others, but also deepens her own self-respect. She feels proud of the way she moves through the world because she knows she's living in alignment with her values. She doesn't rely on external validation to feel worthy. Her actions give her that confidence. In love, this creates a strong foundation. Instead of looking for perfection in someone else, she becomes a reflection of the kind of love she's ready to receive. She has the strength to walk away when staying begins to cost her peace. Even when her heart is still attached, even when there are beautiful memories, she doesn't let nostalgia blind her to the reality of the present. She understands that holding on to something that no longer nourishes her spirit is not love. It's fear, and she refuses to shrink herself for the comfort of familiarity. She chooses healing over history, knowing that the longer she stays in a place that wounds her, the harder it becomes to remember who she truly is. Leaving is not easy for her. She feels deeply and loves sincerely, and parting ways with someone she once envisioned a future with is painful. But she knows that love, in its purest form, should never make her feel small, unseen, or disrespected. She refuses to accept a relationship that chips away at her self-worth. She would rather feel the sting of letting go than the slow ache of staying in a situation that no longer aligns with her values or her peace. Her decision to walk away is not impulsive. It is intentional and deeply rooted in self-respect. She gives chances, communicates openly, and invests in her relationships. But when those efforts are not matched, and when love turns into a cycle of pain masked by temporary joy, she honors herself by choosing distance. She knows that love without respect is just a hollow echo of what it's supposed to be, and she refuses to keep pretending it's enough. In her silence, there is strength. In her goodbye, there is grace. She doesn't need to cause a scene or prove a point. She simply leaves, not to punish the other person, but to protect her own heart. And though the path ahead may feel uncertain, she walks it with dignity, trusting that letting go of what hurts is the first step toward receiving the love that will truly honor her.